Okay, so I'll go ahead and just start it. So thank you for being willing to be interviewed for Live Work Anywhere. Joining us today is Brian Casel of CasJam.com. That's CASJAM.com. Brian is an entrepreneur and he's a bootstrapper extraordinaire. He co-hosts a podcast called Bootstrap Web. He's a founder of Restaurant Engine, also founder of Audience Ops, and Brian teaches courses on how to productize your service. So we're gonna dig into how Brian productizes his services today on Live Work Anywhere. And welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Libby. Thanks for having me on. This is really fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. And you just told me something which got me really excited, and I can't stop smiling. Is that you have a you have a plan coming over the next couple of months? Can you tell me what that plan is?
Yeah, the timing of this interview is great because my family and I are planning on leaving our home in we're currently in Norwalk, Connecticut, and we're going to be hitting the road for at least a year, probably a year and a half up to 2 years. We're going to live in a couple of different locations around the U.S. and then internationally as well. Probably go to some places in Asia and some other places, see where we go. But the idea is that we'll be living in a couple different locations for a couple of months at a time, and so going to be traveling with my wife and our 1-year-old daughter and our big 100-pound black lab dog,
Oh wow.
and I'll be working from everywhere and anywhere. That's how I've been working for the last couple of years, but we've been pretty much stationed in one place, and now we'll be kind of taking that on the road.
But that's amazing to me. You sound so casual when you talk about it. But to most people, the idea, you didn't tell me the size of your dog, but a 100-pound dog and a 1-year-old child is to be taking them anywhere is a nightmare. And I assume you said you have family as well around you where you are now.
Yeah, we have family around here, and
So,
we have a bunch of friends in different cities around the U.S. that
oh, okay.
would like to visit as well. So
Oh, cool. So you have a support system as you kind of go along, more or less. That's great. But still, the idea of traveling with a 1-year-old and a giant dog and a brand new family and getting rid of everything you own, I think it's a dream for a lot of people, but it's terrifying. And you're making that leap. So I think that's great. So I want to congratulate you on that. What was the impetus? What made you decide to do this? And do you have a list? Do you have a plan?
yeah, we have a list of locations that we're thinking we're gonna try to hit. But yeah, I mean the impetus behind all this was really just we want a little bit of adventure and excitement, and we do love to travel, but we've always done the typical 5-day trip here and a week-long trip there. But we wanted to do the slow travel thing and really kind of see a bunch of different places and actually live in a couple of places for a few months at a time and have a little bit more excitement day to day. Um, my wife actually just stopped working recently, so she's kind of full time with our daughter, and the thought of kind of just sitting around here every day, not doing much when really there's nothing stopping us from being elsewhere and traveling and seeing different places and taking all these trips, because I do work from anywhere. And, and right now our daughter is young enough, so she's not in school yet, and we just felt like it was a good time to do this. It was something that we had talked about doing for many years, but it just wasn't very realistic um, in the last couple of years. But now it seems like a good opportunity to do it.
That's great. Some people would say having realistic with a 1-year-old is not realistic in some cases. People are afraid, but I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think you're right. Why be sitting at home when you can be mobile? And you mentioned you have a list of things to do, like selling things and getting rid of stuff. What does that involve?
Yeah, that's probably the most stressful part of all this is
Mm.
just getting ready to leave. So our plan. So today, we're in July, and we're hoping to leave by September, sometime in mid-September, probably. Um, so yeah, I mean we're leaving our place here in Norwalk. We have a lot of furniture and things that we're trying to sell or give away, and I just sold an iMac and I got a MacBook Pro, so I'm
Oh,
going
cool.
mobile in that sense. So just trying to really slim things down. We're putting a bunch of things in storage, but we're also really trying to focus on like how can we pack very light and be as mobile as possible.
That's great. I'm anxious to talk to you in a few months when you've hit the road and you've gone through the rest of this process, because I think it's an incredible learning experience, and it's also incredibly freeing just to we accumulate so much stuff, and to go through the process of minimizing, downsizing is can be a great
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, it is already. I mean, we've already thrown out or sold a bunch of stuff, and that's exactly what has been happening the last couple of years. Is we're just accumulating a lot of stuff, and I mean it's good to have, and especially with a baby, you get to accumulate strollers and toys and all these things. But um, we're not getting rid of all the baby's toys, just but
Yeah.
it is kind of liberating to. I mean, today I was dumping things into a dumpster, stuff that has just been sitting in a corner somewhere for years, and it feels good.
Oh, that's great. And have you guys thought of anything like, I mean, I guess I could imagine people thinking, if you go to Asia and you have a 1 year old, like what if something happens? Or have you thought about health concerns or emergencies? Or is that something that worries you? Or do you just take it day by day?
Well, I mean, of course, we take all that very seriously,
Of
and
course.
so my wife actually has family in Asia, and she's from the Philippines originally. We'll be visiting
Okay.
them, um, and but everywhere that we go, number one priority is living in a secure place, buildings with security and everything like that. Around the U.S., we'll be going mostly through Airbnb probably, and finding good logistics on everything like that, and working out the nationwide healthcare and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. So um, yeah,
Sure.
just kind of um, what I've actually heard from other travelers, families who do this kind of long-term traveling is it's interesting that they actually find that in some ways they feel safer when they're abroad than they do here in the U.S.
Interesting.
Which is interesting. Like the locals there kind of embrace you as um, they understand that you're a foreigner and that you feel kind of insecure, so they go out of their way
Hmm.
to be a little bit more protective and watch out for you and things like that. Of course, you still need to depend on yourself, but
Sure.
um,
It makes
yeah,
me have great faith in humanity. That's great to hear. And I do believe that, especially in the Philippines, they seem to be very family oriented. Um, Well, I usually ask people, what's their number one mobility criteria? In other words, what do you need to stay most productive when you're away? And what are the first things that you look for? Do you look for a place to stay? Do you look for strong internet, strong power? And for you, your case is a little different. Your case is safe neighborhood and things like healthcare
yeah, yeah, and Wi-Fi.
and Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Do you look for a particular speed of Wi-Fi, or how do you just say, okay,
Um,
Airbnb with Wi-Fi, or
yeah, I mean, I'm not really getting very technical with it. I mean,
okay,
definitely, just high speed internet. Um, I guess I can't be too picky about it, and I'll have a few different options. I think whatever house we rent through Airbnb, we would only go with something that advertises as having Wi-Fi in there.
yeah.
But in addition to that, I'll be going to coffee shops and co-working spaces and things like that. So
Sure. What does your work environment look like? Like, what does your day look like now? Do you have a set routine? And what would your routine look like on the road? Like, when you go to what kind of environment do you need? What's your routine look like? Two
yeah, well,
questions.
here in Connecticut, I rent an office space like 5 minutes down the road. So my typical routine is, I'll leave the house and pretty pretty normal day to day from most people is like I leave the house and go to the office. But it's I'm just kind of running my online business from my office space, and the only reason I do that is because our daughter basically took over my what used to be my home office. That became the baby's room. For years before that, I worked from home in the spare bedroom. Um, But I do break up the week now, and I'll work a couple of days or maybe a couple of mornings a week from like a Starbucks or a couple different coffee shops. So yeah, I do like to break it up a little bit, and I get some work done here at home. And when it's nice out in the summer, I'll sit outside and do some work out there. Um, but again, like all this stuff, like I got the laptop, and I basically take it anywhere. And really, actually, these days, a lot of my work is done from the iPhone, to tell you the truth, because a lot of it is just answering quick questions from my team or firing off a quick answer to an email. And I might be out doing things, and I'll get a ping on. My team uses Slack to
Okay.
communicate, so um, a lot of it is kind of just monitoring things there, and then doing some real work, um, when I'm back in the office.
So I want to dive into. I mean, I could talk about your day and productivity, but what I think is really fascinating about you and kind of what you've done is there's so many people who do want to be in your shoes, who want to be able to work from anywhere. Maybe you have a 1 year old too, but no, but people who want to work from anywhere, and but they're not sure really how to get started. And oftentimes, the first path to get started is to transition from the corporate world and become a freelancer. And that's how you started out. But now you're an entrepreneur and you've productized your freelancing, what was your freelancing business and service into, you've translated that into a product. So I kind of want to dissect that path because I think a lot of people would be really interested in how to do that. And first starting out to be able to do it the right way would be great. So can you share with us your path on how you started?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I think I went through. In some ways, I feel like I quit my job twice. Because first, I started out working for a web agency in New York. Um, so that was like my full-time job for a couple of years, and then I left that to become a freelance web designer. So I made that transition where I used to have a salary doing web design, and then I was basically still doing the same type of work, web design and development, but I was a freelancer doing it for clients and sometimes freelancing for other agencies. Um, so I did that for a couple of years, but then I transitioned from that into doing products. And it wasn't necessarily like an overnight switch like it was the first time where I quit my job and became a freelancer. The next transition was, okay, I'm going to slowly phase out the freelance work and phase in building products and basically building companies, um, kind of going from the way I like to teach it and write about it is transitioning from being a freelancer into being a business owner. And because it is a very different change in mindset when you go from I'm the one who does all the work and I'm the one who does all the sales and marketing and everything in my business, um, into being, you know, I'm doing, uh, I'm building the systems and I'm building the team and I'm building the value proposition and bringing in people and putting tools and systems in place, so that the business can basically run itself. And that's essentially what I did with Restaurant Engine, and that took a good 4 years to take it from me doing everything myself in the beginning up until after 4 years I was basically spending about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours a month on that
Per
business.
month.
Everything else was handled by the team and by our systems. They would escalate a couple of things to me, which would take about 2 to 3 hours a month, a couple minutes each time, and that's where it was at. And now my new business, I'm basically doing the same thing again, but I'm moving much faster in that process. What took me 4 years the first time, now I have I've done this a lot of this before, so um, I kind of have the experience to be able to put the team in place and put systems in place a lot faster. Of course, only about 2 months into it, so it's still a lot of hard work, but it's coming together and moving pretty fast.
How do you even start? So you were a freelancer and you said, and you were working lots of hours. And I'm going to steal a story that I heard on your Mixergy course, which just the story. We won't talk about the whole course. But you had gone from wasting so many hours and so much time with a client that didn't even end up becoming a client to you went on vacation and you got 6 clients that week. What
Yeah.
was the difference? How did you transition from freelancer yourself, or in Michael Gerber's book E-Myth, he talks about the pie maker. How did you transition from the technician to pie maker into your team doing everything?
Yeah, and that was a great book. It made a very big impact on me when I read it. Um, it was a long transition, but basically, I think the big difference between what I used to do as a freelance web designer, went into what I did with Restaurant Engine and what I do today with Audience Ops, the big difference is focus. Like now, it's all about focusing in on solving one problem for one type of customer,
Okay.
and doing that again and again in a predictable, systematic way. Whereas before, as a freelance web designer, I was I was serving so many different types of clients and doing all these different things for them. So I was having clients that were like universities, restaurants, doctors, artists, photographers, e-commerce stores. All these different types of clients would come to me. You build up like a referral network and everything. But and then the things that I'm doing for them are completely different. One day I'm building an e-commerce website. Another day I'm building a blog for someone. Another day I'm designing a logo. Another day I'm writing emails or making mobile websites. There are so many different things that I did, so I couldn't market myself. And that's what most freelancers face is freelancers can get business comfortably through a referral network. And if you grow that, you can do okay. But you can't go out there and say, I solve this problem for this type of customer and really drive sales and marketing on that. That's what that's what happens when you start to focus and you start to say this is the value proposition. That allows you to actually have something to sell. That allows you to actually have a product, even if it's a service. If you're packaging it as a product, um, now you'll have something that you can actually build around and not only sell and market this product, but then build systems and build a team that can come in and actually deliver it. Um, and then you can begin to kind of remove yourself from it.
So instead of saying, I'm a freelancer in web design and I can handle your SEO and your logo and all of these different services, you're saying, I handle, can you give an example, like with Restaurant Engine or other examples or Audience Ops or examples that you've seen? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, sure. So like Restaurant Engine, I was doing it was websites for restaurants. We did one thing, and yeah, there are different like features and functionalities, but it's all for restaurants, and everything is tailored for restaurants. So if a restaurant owner came to Restaurant Engine, as they do all the time, they see what we do, they see the showcase of other clients that we've worked, other restaurants that we've worked with, and it becomes like a no-brainer. There's no question in their mind, like, is this right for me? Can they actually do what I need? I mean, of course, Restaurant Engine does because that they have a clear track record of serving restaurants. Um, whereas before, I actually remember one story where an e-commerce potential client came to me through a referral, and we had a long meeting, a couple different phone calls. I wrote up a long proposal. They had the budget, they had the money to spend, but um, they ended up not hiring me because I didn't have any other e-commerce sites in my portfolio. I knew full well how to build an e-commerce site. I knew exactly the tools that I would use and everything, but I haven't established myself as an e-commerce specialist,
Okay.
or, or like I haven't proven that I know
Authority.
how to solve that problem. Um, so it just makes the sale very very difficult. But moving forward into Restaurant Engine and now in Audience Ops, we basically manage the blogs for software companies like SaaS and plugin companies and things. They need they need to do content marketing. They believe that that having a blog will help them connect with their customers and grow their email list and grow their customer base. They just don't have the resources in-house. The founders are too busy to write their blog every week. They can't hire someone full-time for that. So we provide this as a productized service, and that's all we do. We just write the blogs and send out their email newsletters and help them grow their list. And so that's the problem that we solve. So now we can go out and market that and grow it.
That's great. So you find, it sounds like you pick a specific industry like restaurants or SaaS companies, then you pick the pain point or problem that they have, and then you do one thing to solve that problem and become the authority in that space.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Finding a high value problem, right? Like in Audience Ops, what we're doing is it's a marketing service. So having a blog is very valuable for a SaaS company, especially for the SaaS company to build up as an authority, educating their customers. That's what gets customers to build trust over time and eventually start a free trial and then become a customer. And they need to be coming up with educational content that really educates that connects and resonates with their target customer, and that's what we do. And so we deliver that in a very systematic way. Like my team has very clear procedures and guidelines on how we do audience research, and then how do we produce a blog article. Like the writer drafts it, and then it goes to another writer to do copy review. It goes to our assistant who creates custom graphics and sets it up in WordPress, and then they set up an email newsletter and queue that up to go out, and then our project manager sends it out to their client for their preview. So all these pieces, it's kind of like a production line, and my team is basically handling all of that. And my role right now is just to make sure that these systems are running and that there are no kinks and that everybody has what they need to be productive.
So how do you set that up? I wanted to dig into your team a little bit more. How big is your team, and how do you know who you need? How do you hire them, and how do you set up the systems? So first of all, how big is your team? And
yeah, so in Audience Ops today we are five writers. And one of those writers is also a project manager, and then an assistant. So it started out, I started with 3 writers and myself, and the writers started writing the articles, and I was working on the procedures. Pretty quickly I brought in the assistant, and he helps out with custom graphics and setting up the WordPress and newsletters and things. And then a little bit more recently, a couple weeks ago, it was pretty overwhelming for me to manage the queue of all the articles that we're doing, especially as we're bringing on more clients. So I knew that I needed a project manager, and that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. Is the last 4 weeks I've been training our new project manager to basically manage the queue and manage our process.
So first of all, how do you find good talent? Like, did you start out part-time, and how are you finding your team and training them?
Right now, most of them are part-time except for the assistant who's full-time.
Okay.
And they're basically freelance contractors.
Okay.
And we're starting to scale some of them up. So I think some of them would become full-time pretty soon. So I find them in different places. The writing course, I've gone to pretty specific job boards that are just for writers. I've had pretty good success with ProBlogger.net has a jobs section. Inbound.org is another good place to find writers. So I've done. So that was actually a pretty long and drawn out process. Getting these applicants in and then vetting all these applications and then holding interviews. I kind of dread that process a little bit, but it has to be done at a certain point.
Well, that's the problem I think a lot of us get stuck in, is that we have to be the technician, the pie maker, and we have to do it ourselves if we want the quality to be there. how do you, and that is a tedious process. So we run from it. We don't want to do it. Like, I mean, and I guess just to confirm, like you're saying the ROI is worth it. It's there. You can go through the effort, find the right people, and it'll pay off in the long run. But how do you vet? But how do you transfer that quality? How do you kind of let go of some of that um, control, I guess, and have the
Yeah.
ability to delegate?
Well, for me in this new business in audience ops, actually a goal from day one of it was that I would not be the one writing any of the articles.
Okay.
I do write quite a bit on my own blog, like my personal blog is all me, but any articles that we're writing for clients, um, they have to be done by the team, and that was kind of a requirement for me to start this business because I didn't want to start a business where I'm blogging for people. I just wanted to provide a high quality blogging service. So, I mean, basically, I just find
Okay.
really talented writers who are better than I am. That combined with making it a team effort, that's the other thing that I'm focused on right now. I want to. One of the goals behind Audience Ops is to make it um, more valuable than just hiring a freelance writer for your blog. Because any business can just go find a freelance blogger to come up with like 1,000 words per article. But what we do is we have a team and a process where number one we're doing the audience research and they have the process for that. We're actually interviewing the the companies. We're interviewing their customers and recording these interviews and getting inside their minds, building their editorial calendar, writing. Then the writers will draft 1,500 word articles, custom graphics, and then another writer will go and review and do copy editing and add improvements and things. Then we're
Wow.
doing these custom email opt-ins. So we're doing like we're adding so much more than what a single freelance writer adds. And so I think it's a combination of finding um, really talented uh, writers and content creators and thinkers, and then putting them together using a process designed for them to collaborate and to kind of work together on this stuff.
How do they collaborate, and like how do you get people to kind of work together? Do you assign a leader out of the group, or how? It seems like you're there mostly to put up fires and guide, or how do you help
Yeah,
them?
so we do have a project manager who helps
That's right.
things move along in the process, but there isn't really a hierarchy per se. It's more like, so for each client we have um, one writer is assigned as the lead writer on that client, and they're writing basically all of their articles. And then another writer is assigned as the reviewer for that client.
Okay.
And then for another client, that same pair, like the reviewer might be the lead writer, and the other person would be the reviewer. So we have a team of 5 writers, and they're all kind of like mixed and matched in those roles. Um, so, so that and then they collaborate. Like we use Google Docs to draft the articles, and you can add comments in there. We also use Slack to communicate on a daily basis, and we're now also using Trello to manage like the queue.
Those are three of my favorite tools. I was going to ask you what you use, so thanks.
Yep.
That's great. Oh, sorry. The
Oh,
If you can hear yeah, it's not New York City. Usually you can hear the ambulance. So this is the Barcelona
yeah.
ambulance, so a little different.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Um, what was I going to ask you though about the team and management and tools? Now with that noise, I lost my point. But
With
yeah.
tools, it's actually been a little bit of a challenge for both me and the teammates. Like we actually started out using a project management tool called Teamwork.com, and I invested a lot of time and effort into using this tool because it has like so many different features, and it actually the features really work well for a business like this, where each person can have a task, and they can be like dependent on, like if one task can't begin until someone else finishes another task. You can set all these things up, but it's just so complex and so bloated with all these different features and things to click on, and it was just
Right.
hard to navigate. That the team was kind of complaining about it, and I was complaining about it too. So this week, like last week into this week, we phased out of that and we transitioned into using Trello, which everybody likes a lot better. But it's like, okay, everyone, sorry, but we have to completely change the way that we do things because now we're using Trello, and that's a process of making that transition. But
Of changing everything. I know what I was going to say is that I'm really interested. I should talk to you offline, but your tool sounds great, and I don't know if you want to share more as you go along, but in terms of either pricing or, um, but it sounds really interesting. It sounds like a great need, something that I would use even as well, because it's a lot of work you're taking off people's plates.
yeah, I mean, we actually publish the pricing on the homepage on audienceops.com, or at
Okay.
least we do currently. I don't know, that might change at some point, but
Okay.
and I know that the pricing would probably change as well. We've been it'll probably go up at some point, but
So hurry up and get in there.
no, but it's actually pretty good, and we've been we've had a lot of demand for it. Actually, we have more leads than we can handle, and we actually have a little bit of a waiting list. So
Oh,
everybody that I'm talking to, we typically get them onboarded into the service, 3 to 4 weeks in the future.
oh wow.
So
Wow, I better hurry up. That's great. Okay, about your team and these processes and systems. How do you go through the process of, changing from one tool to the next, or excuse me, the process of one person reviewing, writing, and then one person reviewing? Is this all written somewhere, or how do people know what to do without you?
a lot of
Excuse me.
which we keep in Google Docs, and so every procedure document. Um, and yeah, that's basically it. And we also we're doing weekly meetings. So yesterday we had a weekly team meeting on the Google Hangout, which is which was good, especially right now as we're making this transition. It was really about answering questions about how we work in Trello, so that everybody's on the same page.
Oh, that's great. I actually like to do weekly sort of agile project management meetings as well. Do you have a format, and how long is your meeting, and do you do it, you do it once a week? Do you have like a specific agenda every week, or does it vary per need, or?
Um, this is actually all very new. It's even new for me to run these meetings, because I didn't really do them so much in my last business. But right now, it's been a lot because Audience Ops is so new. That the meetings have been a lot about, okay, how do our systems work, and how do these procedures work, and um, the writers just need to know, like, who do I submit this to, and where do I check this off, and what comes after this, and when are certain things due. So those are the kind of things that we've been talking about. Going forward, what I'd like to do is make them more creative, like creative strategy meetings about the upcoming topics, so that we can really internally talk about and kind of bounce ideas off of it. Again, this goes back to, like, you're getting a team effort when these articles are produced. It's not just one freelance writer; it's a whole team, batting around different ideas. And one person has more experience with podcasts, or another person has more experience with e-commerce, and someone's writing an article about e-commerce, then that person can offer some links or suggestions and things like that. So I'm trying to incorporate that kind of stuff into these meetings. And now, as the team is growing, we're probably going to start breaking them up into smaller groups. So,
Oh, cool. When you break them into smaller groups, you mean like have different meetings on different days, and
yeah, or maybe they all be
or
on Tuesday. Like right now, we're at 6 people, and yesterday's meeting was. I mean, that's a lot of people to be on one call. So we might start doing like 3 and 3, something like that.
and you do them on Tuesdays.
Yeah, lately we've been doing them on Tuesdays. I think that's a
Same.
good day in our production cycle, and like this goes back to, like, making everything run very standardized. So there are a few exceptions, but we try to make sure that we're publishing new articles on Mondays, and like the week before that is like a production schedule where like the draft is done by Tuesday, and we're doing review and edits on Wednesday. We're doing setup in WordPress and tweaks on Thursday, and like a final review on Friday. Um, trying to keep this thing running like very standardized.
So you feel comfortable if you were to walk away, then everybody has a plan and a place and a procedure, and they know what to do, when to do it, or you're getting there.
I
Either
I
way.
think I'm getting there, and I mean right now I'm actually really busy with selling stuff and preparing for the move and everything. So most of these days I'm actually not working much on it, and the team is taking care of things. But I wouldn't say it's 100% there. I mean still need to work on creating these procedures, making them make more sense, um, and then starting to push on sales and marketing, and then growing the team a little bit more. So it's still work to be done.
2 months in though versus 4 years, I think you said, Restaurant Engine, trying to get everything together. So I would say that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive. I was laughing earlier because I also run my team meetings on Tuesdays and follow a similar philosophy. Um,
Cool.
yeah. So what would you suggest to and you're bootstrapping this whole thing as well?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, everything that I've done has been bootstrapped, funded by either client work early on when I was doing Restaurant Engine. I was doing freelance work, and I phased that out. Um, and now it's basically funded by the clients on Audience Ops.
Awesome. So it's now all customer funded development, basically. And do you have any thoughts on that, actually? Because I originally kind of came from the VC world and learned the hard way that you should, that customer funded development or bootstrapped as well, but the customer funded development, if you can do it, is the best way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah. Um, I think VC funding has its place. There are certain businesses where that just makes more sense. You know.
Sure.
But for me, everything that I've always done, I bootstrapping has just always made the most sense to me. I mean, early on, like I probably didn't even know what VC stood for a couple of years ago.
Right.
Um,
Vulture
and
capitalist.
yeah, but I it's just I that whole model just never didn't seem logical to me. Like early on, the thought of okay, I have an idea for a product that I want to sell to customers. My first thought was never, okay, go find investors. My first thought was, how do I find customers to pay for this product? And it's really the same mentality that I had as a freelancer. Was I do work as a freelancer, and I want to get paid for that work from the people that I'm doing the work for. Just that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of gone that route. I mean, and then like in terms of building a product, whether it was building Restaurant Engine or building the course that I do, or now doing Audience Ops, I never really needed to like I was never completely incapable of building it myself. I mean, coming from a background as a web designer and a developer, if I have an idea for a product, launching a landing page for that product is not out of my skill set. I could do that. Even building certain things like WordPress sites or plugins and things, like I can do that stuff. Or what I did more often was work with other contractors and collaborate with them. So it's not like I needed investment to go out and hire a whole team of developers. Like that's just, it wasn't a need. That when I would ask the question, all right, well, if I had $1 million in investment, how would I spend it? I never really knew how to answer that question. I never really had a good answer for that. Like, I like to bootstrap sales and marketing, and I like to bootstrap building a product. That's just what made more sense to me, and I wouldn't think that I would be even very effective at spending $1 million investment, at least in these types of businesses.
Yeah, from what you said, productizing a service is that you have you're fitting essentially that freelancer model of you're trading service for pay, but you're productizing it so it's a service still, but it's wrapped inside of a product. So I think that's
Yeah.
a really interesting way to go about doing it. Is but the team is the one that manages your service.
Yeah, and when I talk about productized services, productized consulting is also called. Um, I know plenty of people who prefer to stay solo, right? And they prefer to work, and they don't want to bring in a team, but they'd rather do the one thing that they love doing. But even productized services work for that. Is and building these systems and procedures help you focus in on who you're serving and help you focus in on that one craft. So you can go either way with it. You can design your service to run with or without you. Um, and you don't need to, by staying solo, you don't need to be doing anything and everything for everyone. You can be doing the one thing that you're best at, that you enjoy doing most, serving one customer who you enjoy working with, who's a good customer, um, and just find more and more of that same customer.
Right. And like you said earlier, you can market yourself if you have that one skill that solves the one pain point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the case studies I like to point to is Nick DeSabato. He runs
How do you spell it?
uh, Nick.
Or
His
what does
last
he
name
do?
is DeSabato, Disabado, I believe. I hope I'm not getting that wrong.
That's okay. I can
But
Google.
he runs a service called Draft Revive, and basically
Okay.
what that is, for a set fee every month, he runs one A/B test on your site, and then he'll implement the successful result on your site. And every month he's making an improvement based on one A/B test. So if you're
Wow.
running a SaaS company or some kind of software company or anything, you know that you need to continuously optimize for conversions and test different landing pages and things, and that's what he does. But it's very simple. Like, he lays out a service like, I do one A/B test, and I'll suggest new A/B tests for next month, um, and that's the whole service.
Interesting. Wow, that's fascinating. I'll have to look at that as well. But that's very simple. I mean, anybody could pick something. I was working on a growth hacking project, and part of it is A/B testing, and we're doing content and all these different pieces. But it's inspiring. You can just pick one and zoom in or zone in on it and have a business out
Absolutely.
of it.
I mean, another guy I know, Jared Drysdale, launched a site called landingpageinAday.com.
Wow,
So it does exactly what it sounds like. He'll design and write the copy for one landing page in one day, and I think he was charging like $1,000 for the one day. You
it's
know,
incredible.
and you just go to the site, you can book your time. I think now he kind of shut it down because he had too many requests, but um,
There's a business opportunity
you
for
know,
someone.
yeah. I mean, you go to the site, you book your day, and you pay, and then he actually uses like templates and things, um, but it's really effective. It gives the customers who need to launch a landing page to sell something, and they don't have that ability themselves, and they need to do it quickly, maybe to launch a new product or something. I mean, um, that's really valuable to them.
And it takes into account what you said earlier again about focusing and being very specific. It doesn't get any more specific than that. Landing
Yeah,
page in one
exactly.
day,
Yep.
and then they go and then they go to Nick to have the A/B test, and then they go to audience ops to have the content writing. It's just continuous
Yep.
flow.
Yeah, and there's so many of these. Another friend of mine, Craig Hewitt, runs a site called Podcast Motor, and we actually use them. So they do the audio editing for podcasts, and they do the audio editing for us,
Oh,
and a
cool.
bunch of other podcasts, and that's the productized service. You pay a couple $100 a month, and they handle everything so that the hosts, all they have to do is hit record and put the audio files in Dropbox, and then this team takes care of the rest.
That's awesome. That's a great idea. So
Yeah,
if I'm a freelancer and I'm just starting out, and I think everybody should take your course um, and learn how to do it right the first time. I mean, what advice I guess would you give to yourself, knowing what you know now and starting out? And then also, I would love if you can just talk a little bit about your course because it sounds like it can
sure.
transform a lot of lives.
Sure. So I think the one thing to really understand, I mean, when you're coming from a freelancer, if you're a freelancer, you're a consultant, um, start to get into that mindset of what if I'm not the one doing all the work, then what does this look like? Um, Transitioning from being a freelancer into a business owner, um, and that's a long transition. I mean, I read the email years ago before I started to really implement this stuff. But if you just start to think about, how can this actually run without me, and what are the steps that I can take to um, to get into that mindset? That would be one thing, and then just the other thing that I would say is, um, how can this become more focused? Because right now, most freelancers, whether you're a designer, a copywriter, a developer, whatever you're doing, chances are you're working for so many different types of clients. Some of them are great clients, some of them are not so great. Um, how can you become more focused? And I think the answer to that is finding one high value problem that you can put together the solution for, um, and and then find one customer who really has that problem, has that pain point, and then find more and more of that same customer to do that solution for. Then you actually have something that you can build around. And so, I mean, that's
Awesome.
basically that's the types of things that I teach in the course, Productize. It's the course is about launching and building a productized service business. It was launched um, when I was working on Restaurant Engine. So, I built up Restaurant Engine as a productized service, and now I'm doing it again with Audience Apps. And a lot of these concepts of finding that one thing to focus on, building the systems and the automation to remove yourself so that the business can run itself. And then there's a third section all about marketing, how to find first customers, how to grow it. It's got a number of case studies with about 10 or 11 other people like Nick DeSabato and Jared Drysdale, who I talked about earlier. And this year I'm actually working on adding, and there's also a community forum, which is great. People kind of share what they're working on, what they're launching, questions, and feedback, and things like that. So that's really fun. And this year I'm going to be adding a whole lot of new case studies. So we're actually going to be adding case studies from people who've gone through the course and the kind of things that they're launching.
Cool.
So that'll be coming out later this year. I'm going to be adding a couple new lessons and refining certain lessons. So so that's all at castjam.com. And I actually have a free email crash course on kind of like the basics, the high-level stuff from Productize.
Okay.
So you can get that free crash course right on the homepage of
CastJam. Okay. The CastJam, CASJAM.com, and then just right on the homepage.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
you'll see it there. And
Cool.
that's my newsletter where I write articles and blogs for about this kind of stuff, productizing, entrepreneurship, bootstrapping.
Oh, that's fantastic. So it sounds that I was going to ask you how the best way is for people to get a hold of you, but it sounds like go to castjam.com, sign up to take your initial free email course, and go from there.
Yeah, that's a great way. I'm also CastJam on Twitter. So.
Okay. Excellent. I love this because kind of similar to creating what I call an anywhere startup is with your productized services, you're freeing yourself, as you said, by creating a system and teams. And seems to be a recurring theme, like with from eMyth to systems but working yourself out of when you're just starting out, especially like working yourself out of or if you're deep into your business right now or your service or your product, like how do you work yourself out of your business so that you can be free to go travel with your 1-year-old and your big 100-pound lab? Like how can you be free to do things and make decisions? Well, whether you're traveling or not, just the idea that you can have a sense of being free. So I think you just hit the nail on the head, and I'm really excited to share what you've sent. So thank you so much. Any final thoughts or anything to add?
No, I mean, Libby, this is great. Thank you for having me on. And again, it's good timing. I mean,
Yeah.
what you're talking about and writing about and podcasting here about live, work anywhere. That's what it's all about. And I think the more people that embrace this lifestyle and this concept, the better. So I think it's great.
Awesome. Well, please continue to update me on your travels. I'm really excited to follow everything from your downsizing to your, your overcoming challenges to your fun to everything. So
Will do.
definitely. Okay. Thank you so much, Brian.
Okay, Libby.
Bye.